evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
89.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio, your old friend Virgil back once again for another exciting episode of the podcast. As you guys know, the only podcast dedicated to the love and revival of our beloved drive-in culture. Joined as always by my co-host and general manager extraordinaire, Mark. Say hello, my friend.
Hello.
And joined as well by my co-host and owner extraordinaire, Jeff. Say hello, Jeff.
Hi, everybody.
And we're really excited as we continue our owners series here on the podcast, which has been a dream come true to be able to connect directly with our fellow owners and operators across the country who really breathe the life into the cinematic landscape that is the drive-in culture across America. And today we are blessed. We got the one and only Kenda Dearing, owner of the Kenda Drive-In out of Marshall, Arkansas. Welcome, Kenda.
Thank you.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. Let's start it off. You have a drive-in that is your namesake. What is the story behind the Kenda and the connection with your name? Is it a family biz named after you? What's up?
Yes, family business that names after me. The most common question I get, especially growing up, was which came first. I came first. I did come first. I was a little over a year old when we opened. My grandparents had operated a walk-in here in town, and my father was an only child. So it was the Ken Theater. And then when my mom and dad took over the Ken and built the Kenda, it was just kind of a logical, they ran both for 4 years. So it was just kind of a logical progression, I guess, to have the Ken Theater and to have the Kenda Drive-In. So even though I do have older brothers, I have older siblings, I was the namesake.
There you go. It was meant to be, and I'll tell you,
it was meant to be.
It has such a nice ring to it. And a lot of drive-ins, as we know, they're named after the road that they're on, the town that they're in. They're very kind of generic. So to have a nice story behind the name is it's heartwarming. Right.
And it's kind of cool to know that it's been mine forever, I guess, even though I'm officially the owner now and have been since 2003, but still this is what I've done my entire life, literally.
Amazing. It's in your blood. Well, definitely, tell us a little bit about that history. What was the start for the Kenda and how did you come to be the owner there?
Well, my parents, as I said, they opened in 66. When my dad and my mom moved back to Marshall, Dad was in service after the Korean War, so he was overseas for a while, came back and took over the Ken Theater, and his dream was to open up a drive-in. And I've heard the story many a time that he and the people that he entrusted here locally to help build, and the drive-in was built almost exclusively locally other than the equipment that they brought in from Memphis. But they didn't know anything about a drive-in. You know, they visited a few and decided they were going to build a drive-in, but he did a very good job of it. We've got a natural piece of land that is beautifully situated for a drive-in. And obviously, since we've been in business continuously since 66, he did a good job. All steel screen. He had a great steel guy that was local that came in and built the screen, and we've never had any damage. We did resurface it simply because it was getting a little bit dull, but never replaced any part of it. So for it to been there that long and taking the winds and everything else, he did a pretty good job.
American ingenuity. I'm telling you, they don't make things
That's
like
right.
that anymore.
And that's exactly what it is. It was, we're going to do this, and had a good friend who was great at the electronic part of it. So, I mean, he gathered a good group together, but they knew nothing about building a drive-in. Yeah. But I have said several times they did a pretty good job.
I'm telling you, it was destiny or written in the stars, no pun intended, where they really did set you up for the future, because looking at your layout, It is the only thing I say to the guys. I'm like, it's Mayberry. It feels very Mayberry. Why don't you paint a picture for the listeners? What is your area like as far as, is it rural? Is it set apart in the city? Well, what's the situation?
Well, Marshall is very rural. We're about 1,500 people. We're situated close to the Buffalo National River, so we have a lot of tourism, a lot of people that come in to get away from it all. Not a lot of industry, small town, very small town vibes.
Yeah.
We don't have a Walmart. Okay. We're that small.
You're that town.
we're that small. Yes.
Right.
And for years and years and years, the drive-in was the local hangout.
Yeah.
And our locals I'm not sure that our locals still understand the appeal of the drive-in to everybody, because it's just where they see the movies. I mean, that's where they go to the movie. But, for the last 20 years or so, as drive-ins began their resurgence, the tourists have started. The people in my locals now, my moviegoers come from about 100-mile radius.
Yeah.
So if I plot out where they're coming from, on an average all the time, these are the people that I know. If not by name, I know them by face. And they're driving about, up to 2 hours to get to us.
Amazing. We can relate to that. It's as much local pull that we have and to try to play into. It's become a tourist attraction. People travel in to see
Correct.
us.
Yes.
It's that
Mm-hmm.
appeal. Everybody wants to visit their favorite drive.
It's that appeal. And it's the ability, the one thing I tell people a lot of times, and you'll relate to this, is that you can go to a theater to watch a movie, and you go to a theater, you sit in a seat, you watch a movie. You go to the drive-in for the experience.
Yes.
And while the movie is important, it's also important how that grandparent relates to the grandchild during the movie. And it's important to be able to toss a ball around with your kid before the movie starts. It's all of that. It's that whole experience versus just that movie.
And that's what people remember. It really sticks in people's minds, the experience. And people who aren't drive-in people, it's hard to kind of sell them on, hey, this is the appeal. But it's got such a natural immersion to it, where I say, right, especially running some indoors, you're renting a seat, and it's very impersonal when it comes to
correct
indoor experience, where the drive-in is naturally immersive. It's way more communal. It's like you said, it's a true experience.
Yeah.
It's more family, right? And whatever your family might be, it is that experience to relate to people as well as to that movie, and to have all of that, and that's something that I think is missing today in so much of our experience.
Society. You're right. And that's why what
right.
we do as owners and operators is so important. We are not just preserving a piece of American culture, we're preserving our community spaces. One of the last things that
right.
we can all do together and gather together to do, it's incredibly important for not just the community, but for the peace of mind of the community. Keeps us sane.
Correct.
Well, going back to family again, I didn't want to cut off your story of how you became the owner. So when did that happen? You said 2003 you officially became the owner?
Officially in 2003, yes. I'm a teacher by career. So I moved back to Marshall after college, and became a math and science teacher. So I'm teaching. Mom and Dad actually I was raised inside the drive-in. So their house is literally inside the drive-in.
Yes, we were going to ask that. Seeing the aerial, I was like, it looks like somebody's living there. Oh, that's incredible.
That's my parents' home. And so, not only was the drive-in where it's where I played. It's where, I rode a bike 1,000,000 miles. I learned to drive. As a young teenager, I probably drove hundreds and hundreds of miles, just getting in the vehicle and just driving around the ramps just to drive. 13-year-old, I couldn't get on the roads, but I could sure get out there. And my kids did the same thing. And we live right beside the drive-in, so right beside the entrance.
Oh,
so we were right here, and we had been providing support for Mom and Dad just as, they needed a little help on nights. most Friday and Saturday nights. I'm the concession person. And and was up until when we took over. I became box office. When COVID hit, I went back to concession. So I was pretty much running the concession even then. So we were just basically running it as a two-generational family. And then Mom and Dad just got to the point where they just couldn't do it any longer, especially my dad with arthritis. He just couldn't do it. So in 2003, we became the official owners and, began the process then of it, because we'd never dated a movie. We had never, we'd never done any of that part. I'd done all the running, and my husband had done all the, at that time he could break down a machine and as well as Daddy could. And so he had all the experience in the projection booth, but we started the actual ownership and all of that entails.
You're doing the Lord's work. That's what we love hearing is when a theater is able to be passed on to the next generation, and the next generation actually cares for it instead of going the route of, well, this was a nice family biz for a while. I'm gonna see how much I can get for this piece of land.
Right, and I really think that I've got a son that's here, and I think that it's going to end up passed on again, assuming that the business doesn't change enough. That it is a little scary sometimes out there with the movie business, and you all watched what COVID did to movies, and how's that going to rebound, and how's streaming going to affect everything. It's going to be another one of those hurdles, just like the VCRs were in the 1980s.
That's right, baby. It's just like when the television came out, the VCR. It's another battle.
It was bad. I mean, I remember those years. I was a teenager, but I remember those years, and I remember Mom and Dad struggling. I mean, it was hard.
Yeah.
That was a really rough time. The 80s were not a fun time for drive-ins.
Yeah.
No.
That's the beautiful thing about you guys really holding strong and seeing the support that you guys get. It's beautiful. So the school that you teach at, is it the school that's right across the street? Looking at it, looks like you guys are just, get out of here. Your life is perfectly like right in the right across the road.
I don't have much of a commute anyway. I went, and I taught for 33 years. So, I taught until 2019. Luckily, I guess I was a little bit psychic that I knew that I knew I was getting out to potentially take care of a grandkid. And I was getting tired of working days and nights because, I worked 5 days at school. I worked 5 nights at the drive-in.
That's a schedule.
And they didn't always coincide. So day and night was getting a little bit old.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Well, we're super curious. As you may or may not know, we are the only 35 millimeter drive-in left in the country. 2003, when you took over, you have that experience, run, and hopefully love of 35 millimeter. Do you guys know what you ran when you had the 35 in there?
My husband would. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I know that no, I could not. I mean, I remember, I can't tell you brands. I mean, I remember the Carbon Arc back in the day. I remember switching over.
Yeah.
Of course, I was always in the concession. Projection booth is right there. And I will tell you, as a kid, and I was in the concession probably from the age of 7 or 8 up. I was always there, and probably creating more havoc than I was helping at that time. And I created a lot of havoc for some of my projectionists too, because I would mess with them a lot. I have been known. We had one that I did not care for very much. He was kind of hateful to the young kid running around. So he would always put on headphones. He didn't like all the noise, and he'd put on headphones. And so I was known to sneak in there occasionally and unplug his headphones, which, when the sound goes out for a projectionist, you do jump. And it was always fun to watch him jump a little bit. But we ran 35 millimeter until 2013. So, and we, I thought my dad had already passed away. He didn't get to see the transition. I'm kind of glad in a way, because he was a 35 millimeter fan, and my husband really worried about it, but he's done fine with the transition.
That's good. I mean, the most of the challenge is really learning the technology, but just like anything else, once you get in the driver's seat, you start to figure out how to work it, a couple laps around the lot, you're good to go.
I guess the thing that is most worrisome is that if we had a problem with the machines, with the 35 millimeter machines, and my husband is a machinist by trade, so he is mechanical, and he could, I mean, he could tear anything apart and put it back together and fix just about anything. Now, sound was a little different, but we ran tube sound for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And so, flip out tubes and start doing all of that. And I think that was the problem with losing the control, the ability to fix things ourselves.
That's such a great
was
point.
hard.
Giving over the control to the machine and saying, okay, I'm going to hope that this all works well, versus, that was our whole situation we went through, where to have something go wrong and not have anywhere to turn to get it fixed, right, you're in a real trouble. So to have that piece.
Well, and that was the problem. Yeah, with the sound and everything else. I mean, everything was becoming so obsolete that you
right.
just.
You had to get rid of it. Yeah.
Right. Very hard not to.
Right.
I will tell you one thing that just, we still have our speakers. About 7 or 8 years ago, of course, one of the things that we always did different, and I don't know why Mom and Dad did this and why they designed it different. It makes a lot more sense, is that they handed speakers out and took them up each night. Our speakers never hung on the poles.
Oh.
We have poles, but they were wired to plug in, so they had jacks on them. And every night, and I picked up speakers many a night, both doors of our box office would open. We had 2 doors. We had huge bins that the speakers went in. And you would sit there, and as each car left, they'd hand you the speaker back, and then you would hand it back out. Of course, that protected them a lot. They didn't get as much wear and tear in the weather and the sun and everything else. But about 8 or 9 years ago, we suffered a huge, and we were still running our speakers. Went radio sound years ago. I can't even tell you when, but we still had our speaker sound.
Yeah.
But we got a lightning strike on the field and just fried 2 of our ramps. I mean, literally fused everything together. Every transformer in the pole, it was bad. So we were facing a lot of work to replace all of that sound, knowing that our sound, speaker sound's not that great. And you got a 4-inch cone speaker, you're not getting
right, the tin can.
Right.
You know what your driving speakers sound like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's not exactly high fidelity.
They're not. And we got a little bit of an idea, and I started reached out to drive-ins all over the nation, anybody that would answer me on Facebook, basically. And we took, and again, remember, my husband's a machinist, and he took the speakers, he gutted our original speakers, and he mounted USB charged radios inside of them.
Genius.
Yeah.
So,
Genius.
And volume control, he had to add volume control on-off buttons. He machined. It was a labor of love, trust me. Now when you grab our speakers, they have a radio inside of them. They still, they're still not high fidelity, but they sound better than they did. And they still get our original speakers.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm not sure, because everybody I reached out to pretty much said, this can't be done. You're putting a radio inside of a metal casing. It's not going to, but the charge cord acts as an antenna, and they pick up well.
Yeah.
Most people said, why would you want to do that? Just buy some radios, but those aren't our speakers.
Yeah.
And we wanted our speakers out there. So instead of fixing the field, and continuing that sound, we decided to do that. So as far as I know, we may be the only people that have managed to do that.
That is the first time we have seen that, for sure. And it is a mind blower, because we were gifted a pair of speakers from Detroit Diecast, who does just what you are speaking on. He'll retrofit classic speakers to have a modern appeal that you can, Bluetooth to it and all that other stuff. And it is a legitimate piece of art. And to have those just available for your customers, what a treat for them. That is so
well,
cool.
And to say that these are the speakers we started with in.
Yeah, these are mom and dad speakers.
These are our speakers, and that, we have a lot of extra speakers as well that were not our speakers, that over the years Daddy has bought off people. But we never have converted any of those, simply because they're a little bit harder.
Yeah.
our speakers were uniquely, they worked out very well to do this too. So, but it's a little different, and
it's a nice badge to wear. It's always a question we ask. What's unique about your theater? That is certainly one thing that rises you to the top and say, like, hey, I'm pretty sure we're the only ones doing this. It's so ingenious, it gets our brain going, where you're like, could that even be an option? It's just so cool you guys did it.
Right. And that's kind of where we were when we started this. I mean, it wasn't even a possibility. Yeah.
And facing that financial burden in front of you, it's like, well, we're either way we're screwed, so let's let's do what we want to do.
Which way do you want to put money? Do you want to put money into the existing system, knowing that another lightning strike, I mean, there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
That's just one of those things that can happen at any point in time. And so we chose to go this route, and
thank God
it's worked out well for us.
It's really cool. Well, let's pivot into your wheelhouse. We love talking food. It's right around dinner time and whenever we record this. Your menu is insane, and more insane than your menu options, your pricing is some of the best we've seen. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We're saying, like, we got to go there. Good. We could all afford to go there, no problem.
Right. And we try to keep it down.
Classic.
This past year, I've had to inch up on a couple of things, because we all know what happened to popcorn and to tubs and to different things like that that just hit us really hard. But we do try to keep it very reasonable.
Yeah.
And we've got, like I said, we've got really good food. Our food we're known for our food, and people. If I can ever get my newcomers, my new people into the concession and feed them once, I got them. I got them, right. But you can always tell, if you're at the box office, you can tell when it's a newcomer, because if they've got the Sonic bag or whatever, you go, yeah, you haven't eaten our food yet.
Newbie, yeah.
And we never say anything. Lots of places have no outside food. Obviously we would love that, but then again, on the flip side, I really think that you probably tick more people off trying to enforce that than you do.
We see both sides. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, it's having those offerings. The food is half the fun. It was the case when we fell in love with it as kids, and it's certainly the case now. Why don't you tell people some of the choice menu items that you guys offer or are known for? And in this case, you're the one preparing them, or have prepared them for years.
I'm the one preparing them. Yes, the show burgers. I mean, we're known for what everybody calls a show burger. I don't know where that got started, but for my entire life, it's been a show burger. And I mean, it is our main menu item. Yes. Notice that we don't have any deep fryers. So unlike most drive-ins, we don't do fries. We don't do chicken strips.
Nope.
We don't do anything that's deep fried. We are not set up for fry. So, we have a great nacho. We don't use the fluorescent orange cheese. We do a really high quality cheese. So we do a great nacho. We pull pork in-house.
Yes.
So our pulled pork is great. About any of our menu options, are pretty, and most people, a lot of people do the burgers, but a lot of people do burgers with the nacho or with the Frito pie, but we try to keep a real high quality food.
Frito pie, baby. Come on.
Yeah, Frito pie. And, of course, it's a little different now. Before COVID, you came into our concession and wrapped around, and Frito pies were one of the things that were, if anybody ever saw one, then you knew you would sell more. As soon as the first person ordered the Frito pie, then you could expect to start selling Frito pies because they look really good.
Yeah.
But say, oh, I forgot about a Frito pie. But now we don't see that as much because our concession lobby is closed. When we closed it for COVID and went to an online ordering system that we were using for our lunch business already, people loved it. They would not allow us to go back to the old way. They love being able to place an online order. They get a text when it's ready. They don't have to stand in line.
Wow. How about that?
They absolutely love that. Now, we do have a walk-up window if you prefer to do that, and that both windows will be running a brisk business on a busy night. But, it's
for that.
They really like that.
Do you deliver to a car? Do they come up and give you a number? How does that all work?
The online ordering provides us with a number, and as soon as that order's ready, we text them and they come and grab it.
Wow, talk about convenience.
Yeah, we have one window that's dedicated to just order pickup. It works out really, really well.
That is too cool. That's the things that we adopt along the line, or the things that were created to make the system a little bit easier. It fascinates me. It really does. And in this case, it really made your business a bit more manageable.
It did. And that's what I said, of all things that we learned out of the pandemic, a lot of that was good. A lot of that was stuff that made changes to the way people do business, that made things more efficient. And this allowed us to expand some offerings because I have more room inside. I don't have people coming inside, so I have more room.
Yeah.
We work much faster. We move food out much quicker this way because we can actually put more people in there, and it works out really, really well.
Wow. That's amazing. I'll tell you what, if there are two things I love in this world, it's movie nachos and pulled pork. And you do smash up pulled pork nachos. It's like, come on, take my money.
Yeah. One of the most popular, and then our Southwest chicken nachos. We capitalize on those nachos a lot because, like I said, everybody likes them. And we don't have the fries. We don't have that kind of thing. So,
yeah.
And I've always said, when the fryers come in, I'm leaving because I'm not dealing with grease. So,
man, we should have Mama.
Nobody. Now Todd's close. My husband's close, but nobody makes burgers faster than I do. So they can't live without me down there.
I'm telling you can't run the Kenda without the Kenda.
I bet you go. I had a fellow teacher that called me the Kenda a lot of times because she said, "Oh, there's the Kenda," because that's what everybody calls the drive-in. So I all of a sudden became the Kenda.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that you've been able to see the whole entire history and live the whole entire history and continue to live it. What's your guys' pricing like there? Do you guys do carload? Are you per person?
We're per person. We've never done a carload price ever, even though people will argue that we used to. I don't know why they think their memory is better than mine, but we've never done a carload. Yeah, I kind of been here. I know this. We're at $6. We're at $6. That's ages 12 and up. Children 6 to 11 are $2, and under 6 are free.
Yeah, so our $6 for a ticket.
$6.
Wow.
And that this weekend, $6 would have gotten you Super Mario Brothers and Dungeons and Dragons. So it's a pretty darn good deal.
I'd say so.
Yeah, it's a real good deal.
Just can't beat it. I love it.
And we do get a lot of people because of that. I mean, when you look at the pricing at some of the hard tops that are close to us, and especially with children, of course, number one, it's hard to, I don't know how people allow small children at theater, but I mean, basically they can come to us, their admission, they can eat a full dinner with snacks and everything for a lot of times less than what they would have paid for tickets.
Yeah.
At a theater. Yeah. And certainly if they had popcorn in or anything. So we do get a lot of families that, they're looking for a bargain, and they need that bargain to be able to, to provide movies to their family.
That's incredible. Yeah. You're doing such a wonderful job keeping that nostalgia alive. So in your memory, I'm curious, do you remember what tickets were when you were a kid, what you guys were charging? I mean, how much could it possibly have changed at $6?
Well, a whole lot. I mean, I think Mom and Dad started out maybe at 35 cents.
Beautiful.
56. I think 35 or 50, and I remember $1 admission forever and ever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
And that would have been in the 70s. And then, when we took over, we went to 5. So that would have been in 2003. And then we went to 6 when we went digital in 2013. So we've been at 6 since 2013. We haven't had a price increase for 10 years.
That's incredible. What a gift to your fans. Well, I'm sure that the guys have so many questions for you. I don't want to keep them out. Jeff, anything you got for Kenda here? I mean, what a life. This is the dream that I always told Jeff about, to be able to grow up on a drive-in lot. And now I'm blessed to be able to raise my kids on the Mahoning lot. It's just, I feel so
very special. Very special.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, I think it's great that you can charge $6. I think it's terrific. If I charged $6, I'd be out of business.
True.
But
and you know, there's times, you know, I stop and I think, you know, but we're in, like I said, a very rural area. It's going to be a hardship to go up much higher. You know, it is what it is, and again, it also helps that, you know, my mom and dad paid this driving off, so I'm not like, you know, it's not like I have a huge. I couldn't, and over COVID. I mean, every drive-in owner over COVID, everybody decided in the world decided that they needed a drive-in.
Yep.
Right. I don't know how many people contacted us. Oh, we're going to put in a drive-in because drive-ins are killing it in the pandemic. You are making so much money. No, I wasn't, but they thought I was.
They thought everybody was.
Yeah, well, they thought all the drive-ins were just racking it in right and left, and you know. I don't know how your COVID years were, but my COVID years were still down. I mean, we didn't. If you don't have movies, you know, you're not going to.
What can you play?
And we played everything.
Yeah, we did okay during COVID, but nobody was getting rich. That's for sure.
No, nobody was getting rich, and that's kind of the feel was that everybody thought, and everybody decided. You know, I had people that contacted me. Oh, we're going to put in a drive-in. I said, okay, you know, $500,000 at the very least. I mean, plus your land. Yeah. At least. I mean, that's conservative. That's, you know, that's at least with your land. I would say closer to $1 million, depending on how your land prices are. Right. Well, I don't understand why it should be so high. I can get a projector on Amazon for $200. I said, more power to you.
They never.
You know, let's blow up a screen, and we saw that. You know, let's blow up a screen and throw, you know, a little projector out there. Let's call it a drive-in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
they
don't get that.
We all know.
No, not quite the same thing. Not quite the same thing.
Not exactly the same.
No, the fact that you guys are at 6, though, I applaud you greatly. And I know things are more expensive up here. You know, in what they call the Great Northeast. You know, things are more expensive up here. So.
Well, things are more expensive even in parts of Arkansas. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you know, we are in a very rural town, and you know, it's just a little different scenario. Well, property taxes, those kind of things, not eating us alive.
Yeah. I'm curious. I didn't get to look it up. When I was in the Air Force, I was stationed at Little Rock Air Force Base in Jacksonville, Arkansas.
2 hours. 2 hours away.
Wow.
2 hours. How about
we
that?
are, and we're on Highway 65. So if you were in Little Rock, you know, you hit the interstate to Conway, you hit 65, and we're straight shot. Yep. I have a lot of Little Rock customers.
Yeah.
That's great.
From that area, Little Rock, we go, and I'm talking, my Little Rock customers are my regulars. You know, these are people that I see, you know, 5 or 6 times a summer. I know them, you know. So that is one of our draw areas, and we're very well located because if you go 2 hours to the south, you've got Little Rock, Conway, you've got that large area.
Right.
You swing on around another 2 hours over towards the northeast, you've got Mountain Home, you've got another populated area, and then you've got Northwest Arkansas where their drive-in just closed, which is 2 hours away as well. So if you take a 100-mile radius around Marshall, you're hitting 5 or 6 major population areas.
Yeah.
So we're very well, and we're on Highway 65, so it's not like we're hard to get to. You know, we're on a major thoroughfare.
Exactly. I remember the area. One of our missile bases was near Conway. So I know where you're.
Damascus, the one that blew up was there in Damascus.
That was Missile Complex. Yeah. That was Missile Complex 47. I was in there when I wasn't in the complex, but I was on the Air Force Base when it blew up. Yeah.
Right. And see, and that's about 50 miles from us.
Yeah. Boy, I remember that day. Wow.
Yeah, I do too. Yes.
Yep. Man.
Small world.
And the only other question I had is when you went to digital in 2013, was it an easy swap, or did you have to? I guess you had to tear up your projection booth pretty good to do that.
We did, and we also had to. I mean, you know, our projection booth was not this hermetically sealed chamber like they want it to be, and it was certainly not air conditioned. I mean, I don't know, especially with even the xenon lamps with the carbon arc. I mean, you walk in there. I know in the summertime it got 110.
Oh yeah.
In that projection room, because it didn't hurt anything.
No.
So we certainly weren't doing that. So we basically gutted the projection room and went in there and tiled it. I mean, it was concrete floor. We tiled it for dust, all of that, air conditioned, closed up the extra. Of course, we had 4 holes to project through, and then one for an operator. Closed up a couple of those with plexi so you can still see out of them, but basically had to seal that off considerably, and then went in there and put the digital projector in.
Yeah, you've got to close that stuff off so you can keep the air conditioning in.
Oh yeah, and it's still, the air conditioning is still hard, and we still have, we air condition with a mini split in there, but we also have a portable air conditioner that basically blows on our projector in the heat of the summer, because we're not insulated like we should be. If I was building a new theater,
right,
I would definitely do some things different, but we're working with what we got.
Right. Yep. Right. Sounds familiar. When you're when you're lucky enough to be able to carry it on, sometimes you just have to work with what you got. Do you have a special place with preservation and preserving the theater? Are there certain things that have come up along the way and you're like, there's no way? Well, I guess the speakers is an example, but there's no way.
Speakers are an example.
Yeah.
And if you drive in, and we do have lots and lots of people that grew up with us and then move away because, Marshall's not very conducive to careers. More so now, we're seeing a big resurgence in popularity and population now that people can work online with companies post-COVID. So we have people that are moving into this area because they want to raise their kids in rural Arkansas, but they couldn't work here. Yeah. But, we have people that come back, and if you just look at you drive into the drive-in, you think nothing's changed, until the movie fires up, and all of a sudden, you notice, and maybe you notice, maybe you don't notice, but you do notice a little bit more light, because we do get more light out of the digital than we did out of our, so, and we run, we're running, when we put in our digital system, we went with a Christie system that we knew could upgrade. We went with more power, more light than we ever thought we would need, because, even in a small town like this, a lot of times light pollution is an issue, and we fight that constantly with a high school across from us and different areas. So the last 4 or 5 years, we've bumped our light up a little bit more just to get a little bit better picture.
Yeah, it's nice place to go.
Yeah,
we're in that similar boat. It's nice to be able to have a place to grow and know like you're not at your limit here. So I imagine on the when they light up the stadium lights over at the high school, they got the football games and stuff. It creates
and years and years and years. And of course, the bad thing about it, and we were here before the high school was, and I don't know why they didn't situate that stadium the other direction, but they didn't. And for years and years and years, for 4 Friday nights or 5 Friday nights a fall, we struggled. But they went in. Of course, keep in mind that this is my employer as well, and I worked there for years. So they went in and put in shielded lights, and yes, you can tell a slight difference on our picture, and I still wouldn't want to run the darkest movie ever made, a horror movie or something, against a football game, but you don't see much difference anymore because those lights are they're good. They are shielded well, so that helps us out a lot.
I'm glad they did that for you. Good.
What you got, Mark? Anything for Kenda?
Well, just a couple. One is, we do a online snooping before we record these, and we look at Google Maps and just get a sense of what the theater looks like, at least from the sky or the road. And I did notice your layout. There are 2 buildings in front of or between the screen, let's say. What are those 2? I presume one was the snack bar, but I wasn't sure what the other was.
The back building is the concession and projection room. The front building, I told you earlier that, Mom and Dad were running the Ken. The Ken Theater, the big walk-in here in town, burned in '68. The motor that ran the big curtains, and of course you're talking about an old-time walk-in, and it had big curtains that came across the screen. And after a Sunday matinee, that motor on that didn't cut off, and it caught those curtains on fire, and it burnt to the ground. So after that burned and Daddy, they didn't have enough money to rebuild it. They put it back into the drive-in. He built that front building as an auditorium, and its was glass front. And when I was growing up, it was the show house to everybody that was local, and nobody in the show house ever watched a movie in their entire life. I said it was the mating ritual for Marshall teens and Franklin County teens.
Uh-huh.
Because if you notice, there's 2 walkways. You walk down, and there's 2 doors on either side. And kids made that circuit a blue million times every night. You'd walk down, you'd walk through to see who was in the show house, who was sitting with who didn't have a date, who you could hit on, and you walk back around and through. So, we never watched a movie, ever. And so, and it got to the point then where, back when I was a teenager, we didn't have cars until we were actually adult, driving. Yeah. And nowadays, it seems like kids have so much more. It got to the point where they were tearing it down as fast as we could fix it. So now that house is, half of that is our storage and half of that is our new restrooms. We added restrooms down there. So it's no longer the show house, even though it still has the glass in the front. It's been covered up, but when you go into the inside, you can still see the glass on the storage part.
Amazing.
And it was the place. And and Daddy would walk through with his flashlight at least 1 million times a night and check out everybody and see what they were doing. But it was the place to be if you were a teenager on a Saturday night in this area.
So did that allow for parents to drop kids off at the theater to see movies?
Yeah, now we still have a lot of drop-offs. We still have kids that are dropped off. And if you notice in the back of our field, we got a couple of picnic tables that basically we try to keep them towards the back to where, they're not watching the movie. We know that. And as a former educator, they don't like me walking around either. And then, I had them all in school, and we every so often we'll have to go quiet them down a little bit. But we do still have the preteen, and keep in mind we are a small town, so most people are pretty comfortable dropping off. I want to say most of the drop-offers are between 12 to 14 in that range.
Mayberry, I love it.
Yeah.
No, it's excellent because, traditionally for a lot of drive-ins, if you're not coming in on a car or a motorcycle, you really, they don't even let people in sometimes.
Kind of SOL, yeah.
And we've had the joy of people on a motorized unicycle once too, but
at least it was motorized, like it was some sort of vehicle.
So I know a couple of years ago, I'm friends with Pamela Pierce Barslow, whose father made The Legend of Boggy Creek. And she had told me that.
And the bootleggers. Do not forget the bootleggers.
And bootleggers. Yeah. And you guys ran that as a double feature. And how did that all go for you?
Did you know how long it took me to track her down and to get that information and finally get it? And she was gracious enough to allow us to play both. I played them as a double during the pandemic. The bootleggers, in case you're not familiar with it, of course, Boggy Creek is by far the more popular movie.
Right.
But the bootleggers was filmed in Searcy County, part of it, there on the Buffalo River. And for years and years and years and years, it was the biggest movie that Mom and Dad had ever played because it was here and local. And, so that's the reason I wanted to bring it back. Now, I will tell you that the movie was not quite as great as I remember it being. You know how that is a lot of times as a kid.
Didn't age as well.
Yeah, it didn't age as well as I thought. But we did really well. And Boggy Creek, everybody really wanted to see Boggy Creek. We did really well that weekend. Feeling our way with older movies and trying to figure out what was going to play and what was going to be, it was a challenge. And tracking down licensing on older movies was horrendous.
Oh, yeah.
Because so many companies, that one, because so many companies have changed, and it's like tracking the lineage of the movie through is ridiculous. And people don't understand that. Why don't you play this? Well, I can't figure out, how to lie. Well, you can go buy a DVD. They don't
just pull it off the wall. What's the problem?
Yeah, what's the problem?
They don't know, right? Just like when people come into the booth. The people love to come in and be, can you turn the brightness up? It's like, what do you think this is? A television?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
It's just, how it is. But, No, we did well on that, and we were very. And I don't know. After that, I think I saw Boggy Creek playing somewhere else, but
yeah, she did
at that
tour for a
time
while.
I had to wait for them to get those. There was something going on with the licensing rights still. And I guess I don't remember all the details, but I had to wait quite a while for her to get everything done. And I think they were redoing them for DCP as well.
Yeah, they remastered those. I think they have 4K now.
I really can't remember if I played off of, if she sent me, if we actually got a DCP on those, or I DCP a lot of stuff. Like we do our family fun nights, which I typically don't. A lot of times, especially for our Throwback Thursdays, a lot of films are not available on DCP, so I have to convert them over, and I do a lot of conversions. I will not run. I did one time, I think, but I will not run Blu-ray or anything through, even though you can hook it in the machine. I want it DCP'd. I want it on the machine. There's too much possibility of something going wrong when you're running a DVD or a Blu-ray.
Yeah, nothing more scary than a skip on the screen where you're like, oh God, there goes the magic.
I know. Yeah, there it goes. And you talked about Wizard of Oz. I remember one of the drive-ins that I followed got into a mess like that with Wizard of Oz. They were running it off Blu-ray and it froze up, and I'm going, people, converting to DCP takes a little bit of time, but it's time that you don't have to sit there and watch it. So get that thing converted over.
Saves the embarrassment.
Do it that way. Yes, definitely.
Amazing. Well, Kenda, I'll tell you, this has been such a treat. You can really feel the love, the passion that you have for this place. And your parents will be so proud. It's such a blessing that you can keep this place going. And we appreciate you.
It is cool. And it's something that you don't see, as often, I don't think, anymore as you used to. Family businesses are a dying thing sometimes. Oh, yeah. And, but like I said, I was born and raised, with the exception of the 3 years that I lived in Conway and to go to college, this has been where I've lived and what I've done basically every night. I wouldn't know a normal existence.
Yeah. This is your life.
We closed.
Yeah.
It's my life. And when we closed down a couple of weeks, we did close down 2 weeks, I think, for COVID to kind of regroup. And it was just like, we are sitting around on a Friday night and we're not at the movie. And we don't know what to do. We don't know how to act like real people. Normal people. If that, and you understand that. If you run a drive-in, if you run this kind of business, you work when most people are off, and you do, your schedule's very different.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
And that's what I've done my entire life. From the time I was old enough, I was in a crib or a playpen at the box office, and then I was running loose one place or the other the rest of my life.
What a dream.
And, as you don't date, I did manage. My brothers didn't get off on the weekends. They ran movies on the weekends. I did usually get off on the weekends, but I worked every other night. And Mom and Dad, crazy, they worked 7 nights a week. They were open 7 nights a week. Yeah. And I refuse to do that. I'm open 5, and that's plenty for me.
You need a break. It's worth mentioning that, everybody knows the Mahoning is seasonal, as a lot of East Coast theaters are. You run year round. So this is not a situation that's like, oh, I get to take my break. And it's just a train that keeps on moving. You got to keep feeding it its coal.
Right. And growing up, that was sometimes rough. But like I said, Mom and Dad believed that we're going to be open every night. I'm not sure. I've had that discussion with them. Why did you feel compelled that we had to work every night? But we did. And trust me, slave labor was a thing at that point in time, because they did not feel like,
get out
we
there.
Worked. We didn't. Yeah, we're going to work. And, that's the way we did. But we worked as a family. So I guess it all worked out, and we all turned out pretty good. So can't complain too much.
Well,
great. That's great.
Before we let you go,
Jeff has been an owner operator for many years. We're coming in a bit fresher. Any advice that you'd have for the next generation trying to carry on the drive-in and be able to do it as hopefully successfully as you have?
Like I said, it seems like it changes. It has changed a lot. The whole industry has changed a lot. the saving grace of the drive-ins was the resurgence of people wanting to go to the drive-in. And whether that came from the drive-ins or that came from we want to get back to simpler times, or where that came from, I don't know. But you got to meet your audience's needs. And I think that's why we've adapted fairly well. And, we do a lot of stuff that even Mom and Dad growing up, we didn't do. We do family fun nights, celebrations for the kids, and we do our Throwback Thursdays for the vintage cars, and we do a lot of special free admission events. And I think a lot of that gets our name out there a little bit more in the publicity. And you just got to build it up as the place to go, and the place to be. And hopefully Hollywood hangs in there with us. It scares me a little bit sometimes.
I hope so. I always say, what is Hollywood anymore? It's like, movies come out for a day in theaters and then it's all of a sudden on your TV or showing up in Walmart for you to buy. It's very strange how the landscape has shifted.
It is strange. I hold on to the idea that, and I heard my dad say this over and over and over again as they went through the VCR and that time period. And, if you've been you remember those times. And I remember him saying over and over again, it'll be okay. They're going to want to get back out. Yep. They're not going to sit at home forever. The novelty will wear off. They're going to want to get back out. People want to go. Yeah. And so, and it happens, so.
As hard as things are, I think there is that inherent need to experience movies together and keep the theater experience alive. As long as that doesn't go away.
And I think drive-ins probably came out of the pandemic. One of the things I think that happened during the pandemic is we figured out that, and this has kind of always been true, that you've got that tier of top-rated movies that are going to go to the theaters. They're going to do great. And then you've got those other movies that are a little bit questionable maybe for theatrical release, the ones that aren't going straight to you got your movies that are going straight to DVD or straight to streaming now or whatever. Yeah. And those middle ground is kind of where I think a lot of those, they were tending to stream those. And I think that may continue. As a drive-in, as a single screen, I don't need that many movies. Unfortunately, in the summers, sometimes I have more movies than I can play, and it kills you to have movies that you're passing on, And I mean, I'm already looking at the summer. Okay, which ones am I going to break with? And if I break with this, what am I going to do with this movie? And how is that going to fit into everything?
Yeah.
But your big, huge multiplexes, maybe the ones that come out of that the worst, because there's not possibly as many movies coming out, because some of those are not ever going to hit theaters. They're going to go ahead and stream. So, I don't know. It's just going to be a little bit of a mind shift. But I think, I think we're doing as the drive-in industry, I think people are wanting that experience.
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to be fine.
If anything, 2020 and the pandemic shined a light on the drive-in. And I think it opened up the idea to more people. And as we see with Hollywood, the world is run on nostalgia right now. Certainly Hollywood is run on nostalgia. So to have a business that is truly anchored in nostalgia, I think it really does have an appeal to the youth that we've always hoped for. Because as Jeff always told me, that's the future for you. It's if you get these kids to fall in love with the drive-in, they're going to want to come back with their kids. And I think inherently, with the way that the culture just is now, there is a vibe that the drive-in has, a clout, I guess, that the drive-in has back for it. And that's not something that you can pay for through advertising or anything else. It's just a cultural shift. You cannot.
Right, it's a cultural shift, but it's a shift that we created a little bit. I mean, I think the drive-ins, we kind of created that a little bit. Maybe not created it as much as we built off of that. I mean, we definitely, tried to take advantage of that as much as possible.
Absolutely. Yep. And it's, like we say a lot, things are written in the stars, and the fact that you've been able to survive all these years and the Mahoning's been able to survive all these years, and our community across the country now is getting closer, and we're getting to know each other. It can only be better for the future of the industry. So I say it all the time, whether it's the Mahoning, whether it's the Kenda, get out there and support your local drive-in. What they have done, what they have gone through to be able to still be standing is a thing of beauty. So thank you, Kenda, for all that
Correct.
you've done for the culture. And is there any, but before I let you go, is there anything that you can let the audience know as far as where to find you? You do social media or the website?
Website, just KendaDrive-In.com. Facebook, I'm not great at a lot of the other platforms. I keep on saying I'm going to get better at Instagram and all of them. But
yeah, look out for that Kenda
Facebook.
Drive-In TikTok account coming soon.
Yeah, you bet.
It's a whole thing, I know.
And you know as well as I do, anybody that is trying to manage all of that,
yep.
it requires a tremendous amount of time.
Mark and I, it's literally like half of our job is managing those social medias, and it's a blessing and a curse.
It is, and you sit there and how many people ask the question that is very obviously answered in the post, but we're going to question it again. And I've had a lot of people on Facebook say, or tell me in person, you must have the patience of Joe because you're answering questions over and over. I mean, you got a double feature. I laughed the other day because somebody asked, which one's playing first? Is Mario playing first? Well, why would I possibly list the movies in the order that they don't play? I mean,
just to create mass confusion. Yeah.
Why would you? I mean, is there any place that it makes sense for me not to list them in the order they play? But I will field that question at least a dozen times every weekend. Which one plays first?
Yeah.
And I'm going, even though I say they are always listed in the order they play, but it takes a tremendous amount of time, to do that. And we book for ourselves as well. So, there's a lot of that interaction back and forth with booking agents at every theater. I mean, at every company. So, we have a lot of that type of work to do.
Wearing a lot of hats. It's a
you
never-ending
do,
process,
Right.
What small business owner doesn't wear a lot of hats, though?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's like you're out. You know how to landscape, cook burgers, run.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing.
And the other funny thing, and you will also agree with this. I mean, most people, and I'll have people, oh my gosh, you made a lot of money tonight, which they don't see the percent. They don't see everything else. But they think that at 7:00 when you open the gate, you just walked in 5 minutes before that.
Yeah.
And unlocked the doors, and miraculously
everything's there ready,
and the paper was picked up, and all the concession was ready to go. They don't see that we started at 9:00 that morning and have already put in a full day to get ready for a night, and then we're going to work till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and sleep a few hours. And in the summer, and you do that over and over and over again, day in and day out, just to have your season.
Yeah, I can't kick it. Even during the off season, when we're closed, I still can't go to bed until like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Your internal clock.
Yeah.
Your internal clock is that way. And you also, you finish up at 1:30 or 2 and you walk in. Well, you don't go straight to bed. You're too wired. You know, so you got that extra hour. So it's, it's 3 and people don't understand. Well, you sleep till 9. Yeah, I didn't get to bed till 3. So yeah, I'm going to be in bed at 9. Don't call me.
You're damn right.
I'm not an early bird. And
neither am
the
I.
next generation, our 3-year-old granddaughter at midnight, she's still running. She'll run with us the whole time, and
she's got it in her.
Her little clock is already running just like ours.
Yep. All right. That's great.
So beautiful. Your story's so inspiring. And again, thank you for everything that you've done for the culture, and knowing you're passing it on that's such a beautiful thing.
Well, thank y'all for passing on everybody else's stories and for talking. It's nice to talk to other people that understand.
Yeah.
That get the business, because not everybody gets it. And when you do get it and it's in your blood, it's there.
Yeah.
It's a part of you, and it's there, and it's going to be a part of you forever. So, it is what it is. The drive-in bug.
That's right. The drive-in will never die. Well, thank you so much for making the time. We are going to make the time to come down and visit you and get some of those pulled pork nachos. I am
Well, you come see anytime.
Oh, you're the sweetest.
But you're also like us. You don't go. How many times have you watched a movie anywhere? How many times do you go? Because somebody would say, "Oh, is this movie good?" I wouldn't know. I didn't watch it. We probably watch fewer movies than anybody.
You're like, I work at the drive-in. I don't watch movies.
Yeah.
No, I mean, because you don't. Who has the time to actually do a whole lot of that when they're coming out? I mean, there's a handful of movies over the last 5 years that I've actually really watched on our screen just because I really wanted to see them. But for the most part, I don't watch much of anything, especially not during the summer. Nobody has time.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Well, thank you again. And again, you guys heard it. Show some love to the Kenda. And again, if you guys are out and about, show that love to every drive-in that is opening up or continues to run throughout their season. And on that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night, and God bless you.